All right, good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Friday in Focus, coming to you virtually from the beautiful confines of my home, as I'm sure we're all spending a lot of time at home today. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about our biology and chemistry programs at St. Edward's. My name is Dinah Sabeljo-Kennard. I'm the Director of Admission Partnerships and Programs at St. Ed's, and we're very happy to have you here with us today. Let me go ahead and go over just a few logistics about the webinar before I turn it over to our presenters. We will not be using the chat feature, so please do use the Q&A tool, which you should see at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom ribbon, to present any questions that you have for our panelists. Now, the format today is that we will have a formal presentation for about the first 30 minutes or so, and then we will have about 20 minutes for questions. However, as we go through the presentation, if there are things that you have questions about and you want to make sure you don't forget them, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A tool, and our presenters will get to them at the very end of the presentation. So again, thank you for joining us today. Your cameras and your mics are muted, so please do use the Q&A tool to connect with us and let us know what you want to know. I'm delighted to present today. Our two featured speakers today are Dr. Bill Quinn, who's Professor of Biological Sciences at St. Edward's, and then Dr. Santiago Toledo, Associate Professor of Chemistry and Chair of that department. We'll first be speaking about biology and then chemistry, and then again, as I said, we'll take your questions at the end. All right, Professor Quinn, look forward to turning it over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for giving us this opportunity. Both Dr. Toledo and I are very excited to share some information with you. We have an enormous amount of information to share, but we're very cognizant of your time and respectful of your time. So we'll try to do this as effectively as possible. Before I go into the specifics of biology, let me assure you that the two presentations you're going to see today may seem to you to reflect two things that are somewhat different or separate from each other. Our two programs, chemistry and biology at St. Edward's, are very much integrated into each other. I got 30% of my graduate courses in biochemistry. So chemistry and biology are one and the same intellectually. They relate to each other. We try to treat it that way, but we do have this organizational scheme. So you'll see two different things, but hopefully you'll see complementary things. So now I'm going to go pursue the programs in the Department of Biological Sciences, and here they come. Go ahead, Dinah, if you would, please advance the slide. Thanks. So there are Bachelor of Science degrees and Bachelor of Arts degrees in biology. These are listed in no particular order. I think I tried to put them in alphabetical order. Bachelor of Science degrees in biology include Bioinformatics, which is what it says it is. The simple way for me to say it is you generally think of approaching problems in that area from the perspective of big data and using computational skills to help you analyze those data and come up with solutions. We have a graduate school track in the Bachelor of Science degree. I bolded two words there, research experience. You're going to hear Dr. Toledo and me constantly refer to one of the hallmarks of the sciences at St. Edward's, and that is the opportunity for undergraduates to get heavily involved in research. That is especially true in the biology department for the graduate school track, but it is replete throughout our programs. And biology graduate school does what you would expect it to do. It trains people or educates people so that they're successful in the graduate programs. We have a Bachelor of Science with a health professions track, and it is what you might expect. There are many, Dr. Toledo will tell you this, there are many ways to pursue success in the professional schools. We think a very good one is biology. Another very good one is in the chemistry department, and you'll see that coming too. A brand new degree in the Department of Biological Sciences is the BS in Environmental Biology and Climate Change, and it is unique among programs across the country in that it is quantitative and analytical, gives students a very firm foundation into solving and informing environmental issues from a very scientific and quantitative perspective. And there's one more, and that's medical laboratory science. This is similar to what you've been seeing in the news. This is not an epidemiology degree, but it is an undergraduate degree that allows graduates to be educated in a way that they become disease detectives. And so these people study at St. Edward's, and then they move on to an affiliated program. This is a really interesting degree in which we partner with another institution, but that's a Bachelor of Science in Medical Laboratory Science. So it's mostly at St. Edward's, but you do clinical training at a hospital or another institution. Over to Bachelor of Arts degrees, there is a general biology track in the Bachelor of Arts degrees where students are allowed to, or encouraged to, customize their degree to fit their particular need. We don't try to say we know exactly what everybody wants to do and create something for everybody. This allows for a lot more flexibility. If you'll show the next one, we'll see the other four. There's a Bachelor of Arts degree that allows students to succeed as they become teachers, kindergarten through 12 teachers in science. And then there's a track that leads to success in nursing, so it qualifies people for graduate nursing programs. There's a Bachelor of Arts degree in Allied Health, by which students prepare for those kinds of health professions, schools such as PA, optometry, and as you can see there. And then there's one more, and that's Clinical Laboratory Science, another really interesting program in which you earn a Bachelor of Arts at St. Edward's, and in this case you would earn a master's degree at the UT Medical Branch, that's Texas' oldest medical school, in a 3-2 arrangement. You go three years at St. Edward's, take a core set of courses, and then you move on to UTMB where you finish up 2 years. After those 2 years, you would be awarded a BA by St. Edward's, and you would be awarded, in a total of 5 years, you'd be awarded a Master of Science in Clinical Laboratory Science from UTMB. That's as fast as I can move through those. Let me talk about some of the people who make this happen. These are my colleagues in the Department of Biology. Go ahead. These are also in alphabetical order by last name. Coincidentally, I have 2 microbiologists up front. Dr. Trish Bainham is extremely interested in antibiotic resistance. It says it is an enormous problem, and it is going to become an even more enormous problem as bacteria continue to evolve resistance to the tools we have available to meet them. She uses a variety of novel approaches to see if we can come up with new ways to help us fight bacterial infection. Next slide is also a microbiologist. That's Dr. Claire Edwards. And Claire works with microbes in a different way. She does directed evolution in ways that help society, and as a rule, improve processes that are of use to us, such as using bacteria or algae to produce biofuels better. And yes, in the brewing system, how can we do this in ways that are more environmentally friendly, energy efficient, and product efficient? So she studies that kind of microbial evolution. Next, please. Dr. Lisa Gehring, as you can see, is a developmental geneticist. She's interested in what genes switch on and off at different times in the development of organisms. Her model organism is over there on the right. That's Drosophila melanogaster. And down at the bottom, you can see different stages through which Drosophila larvae proceed. We go from an undifferentiated egg that is fertilized to something that is differentiated. And above those Drosophila slides, you see a human egg fertilized, and then we become these bilaterally symmetric organisms that don't look anything like an egg. What are the genetic processes that cause that differentiation and development? Next, please. Dr. Daniel Gold is also a molecular biologist like Dr. Gehring, but he studies parasitology from a molecular perspective. If this is an animated slide, Dinah, so if you would hit the next one. So he's particularly interested in a model organism called the hissing cockroach of Madagascar. I'm sure you've seen it. And he's really not that interested in the cockroach. He's interested in a protozoan that parasitizes that cockroach's gut. And he uses fluorescence fluorescence microscopy to study the development of that organism inside of the larger organism. One more, please, and you'll see what he's trying to do. He labels particular proteins and gene products so that he can see how this gregarine develops and what molecular by what molecular processes the gregarine is developing inside of the gut of the cockroach. Gregarines are very common. They're not just in cockroaches. So that's Dr. Gold. And then we have bioinformatics with Dr. Charles Hauser. Chuck is really a biochemist by training, but he's also into big data. And he applies it in several different ways. Over on the right, you see a slide of a plant with the above ground part green and the below ground part red. You think that roots are what really fire a plant, but roots don't work by themselves in natural systems. They're engaged in a mutualistic relationship with all kinds of soil microbes. And the expression of different genes by the plant itself, by microbes near the plant, farther away from the plant, has a tremendous bearing on what's going on in our natural environment. And Dr. Hauser has the ability to segregate these different components and analyze who is contributing what to the process of plant growth. He also does different forms of stress in plant responses. There's a really interesting model organism he uses, but he does all kinds of stress, including atmospheric pollutant called ozone. So next, please. Dinah, are you there? There we go. Dr. Andrea Holgado is our department chair, and she's also a molecular biologist who uses molecular mechanisms to study neurodevelopment. She's particularly interested in axonal formation in any kind of organism, but if you'll hit advance one more time, she uses a model organism called Caenorhabditis elegans, a roundworm that is a great model organism for a lot of reasons. And like Dr. Gold, she uses fluorescent microscopy to study the location in which different proteins and different protein processes proceed in the development of normal and deficient roundworms. Has tremendous application to human systems such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases. Next, please. Dr. Fidelma O'Leary is also a neuroscientist, and she is quite interested in what goes on at the molecular level, but she tends to do her research is focused mostly on behavioral outcomes. She likes to study cognition, memory, and perception. She's basically, to a degree, and I use this term a little loosely, she wants to see to what degree do different environmental stresses, such as the neurotoxins that you're looking at, to what degree do those environmental stresses affect learning, habitual behavior, organisms' neurological responses to insult. And again, one of her model organisms you can see over on the right is C. elegans, but she does other organisms as well. Next, please. Yep, Dr. Matt Stephenson is more of a field biologist, and he studies ecological immunity. He's extremely interested in arachnids that are a very interesting group of organisms. But he does the entire bit of invertebrate organisms and invertebrate ecology. He tries to, he's really focused on behavioral changes that are the outcome of predator-prey interactions. Having said that, he's also doing, go back one please, he's also doing, he and his students, and I'm going to go over that in a minute, he and his students are very involved with colony collapse disorder. So he does a wide variety of ecological insults to invertebrate organisms. That's invertebrates. Next, we have Elijah Wostel, who's a vertebrate biologist. He's especially interested in amphibians and reptiles. Both Dr. Wostel and Dr. Stephenson, to one degree or another, we're all evolutionary biologists, but they are the people who teach primarily in the evolution, in the capstone evolution course. Dr. Wostel is a classic vertebrate evolutionary biologist. He likes to study what happens to different clades, different groups of organisms under stress in different systems. For example, what happens when you do destroy critical habitat, in this case for bats in Colorado, or what happens when you introduce invasive species into other relatively isolated ecosystems. So a good evolutionary biologist. Next up, we have some faculty and staff who are not engaged in research. And the first two, Dr. Michelle Green and Dr. Megan DeWatley, are intensely involved with our freshman curriculum. And now I want to get on to something that I'm going to transition eventually to what Dr. Toledo has to say. Even at the freshman level, we design our curriculum and we empower these two people to develop courses, even at the freshman level, that introduce students to the process of research. You don't just take a junior at a university and say, okay, now you're going to go do research. We introduce these concepts early on, and Drs. Green and DeWatley are extremely valuable partners in getting freshman students into the research curriculum, even though it says they're non-research faculty. Zoe Skelton is a lab manager extraordinaire. She keeps everything running perfectly and safely. She's our safety officer as well. Next up, there's this fellow. His name is William Quinn. He does big picture biology in forests and tends to focus on plants, but he does plant and animal interactions. He also does uses geographic information systems as a tool to analyze these changes in ecosystems. I'm going to pause right there. All of these people, I say they do these things. I want to focus on something that's unique about St. Edward's in my experience. Yes, that's what these faculty members do, but they don't do that in a void. This is the opportunities that they give to their students. We are extremely student focused. While I might do this, or Dr. Holgado might work with Caenorhabditis elegans, no, our students do that as a group, and we help mentor and guide groups of student researchers. We have a wonderful building that is perfect for this kind of thing. I don't have a research lab. My students have a research lab. They do the kind of research I do in their lab, and I think Dr. Toledo will say that too. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Briefly, let me go through what some other people do, and let's go ahead through the next 3 slides. Interestingly, purely coincidentally, the first person up there is Alberto Venegas. Alberto is, as you can see, is a research scientist at AstraZeneca. You may not have heard of AstraZeneca recently, but they're in the news because the federal government just gave them over $1 billion to assist their research in coronavirus vaccine, and to actually buy 400 million of the vaccines if they become available. Alberto was involved in that. At a different end of a spectrum, Ramiro Garcia is the deputy director. That's the #2 person in charge of the world's 2nd largest environmental agency. So you can go into research at a high level, at an intense level. You can become a policy person in environmental quality. We have Ramiro's uncle, who was in school with him at the same time, is a director of the internship program, the medical internship program at UT Medical Branch. Let me go over Gretchen in depth for just a second, and then I'll go through the others more quickly. Gretchen does a lot of work in human nutrition, but she's really a plant biologist. She studied the uptake and integration of iron into plants. Right now, she's going to do a postdoc at A&M where she's following that iron into humans. Iron is important for many reasons, but one is that it's a metal that sometimes sits at the center of enzyme complexes, and that happens to be exactly what Dr. Toledo does. So when you hear, oh, this is chemistry and that's biology, that's false. All of this is completely integrated. You can see others there, and we'll move quickly through them in the interest of your time. Whole lot of interesting things. Down at the bottom, Danielle Baker went to medical school. She wanted to be a high school teacher, and that's what she does. Veterinary medicine. There's a bioinformaticist doing data work at Bayer. Next slide, please. A real important thing for all of you who are interested in science, We are not productive at all if we are very good at communicating science to each other, but to no one else. One of our graduates is a content manager specialist at a company that has to get scientific information into the public. That is an extremely important part of our entire curriculum, both in chemistry and biology. We're very intent on people being able to write and speak and present about science, communicate science to science people and to the general public. Again, I'll be quiet now. I think if we move on, that is correct. Your future is now in the hands of Dr. Santiago Toledo.
Hello, everybody. Can you see me? Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's so good to have you here. And it's so exciting to know that some of you have taken interest in this idea of going through the science route and thinking specifically about St. Edward's as the place that you can come do science. We think, and we're very excited about that possibility. Hopefully we can get to meet you face to face very soon. And if not, in a couple of years, I know that some of you are juniors considering St. Edward's. So I hope that, just like Dr. Quinn said, to tell you how exciting sciences are here in St. Edward's, the opportunities that you actually have available here, how interdisciplinary we are and how collaborative we are in terms of how we do science. We don't see boundaries necessarily being drawn between one discipline or the other, something that is important because the field of research is becoming more and more that interdisciplinary nature. So we want to make sure that we train you for what is out there in the real world. One thing that is Dr. Quinn emphasized as well is this idea that at St. Edward's, you have incredible opportunities that allow you to do hands-on work, not just you being part of a lab observing, but actually doing the research. This idea of you having access to experts like the ones that Dr. Quinn mentioned and the ones that I will introduce you today is something you can't really match with anything else. Our interest is that you become the scientist, that you become the person driving the ideas, driving the research questions. And that's extremely important for the philosophy of research that we do here at St. Ed's. We believe in something called the teacher-scholar model. This idea that we are better instructors and better teachers because we're scientists, and we are better scientists because we are teachers and we're passionate about teaching with you. So that's something that we truly believe in and we're very strongly passionate about. So let me explain you a little bit about what chemistry is about and some of the people that you meet in chemistry. Like Dr. Quinn said again, the idea here is that all of our students and a lot of our students are a lot of times in flux. They end up taking chemistry classes, biology classes, mathematics classes, and their interests, of course, are different because you're exploring a lot of the new things that you're understanding here in your undergraduate career. So it's important to recognize that this is a fluid idea, and what we want you is to succeed within St. Edward's, regardless of where your home might be in the end. So from the perspective of chemistry, let me tell you a little bit about our programs. We have a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry, one in Biochemistry, Environmental Chemistry, Forensic Chemistry, and finally a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry. So let's go one by one and I'll tell you something about them. The Bachelor of Science in Chemistry is kind of our very much research-focused program. It has a big emphasis on research. It would say it has the most number of classes that are kind of in-depth chemistry, if you kind of are really into that. I would say it incorporates quite a bit of elements from biology, physics, and mathematics. So it has a strong component of mathematics and physics and biology to allow you to develop that well-rounded understanding of all the disciplines that are going to support chemistry. This is the program that takes most students into graduate schools, as well as allows you to sort of apply for directly out of undergraduate to get technical positions for doing job in science. Our Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry was designed originally with the intent of supporting students interested in going into the pre-professions, specifically medical school. So this is the degree that has the most balance between biology courses and chemistry courses. And it's a little bit less intense into the upper division chemistry classes, but allows you some flexibility to be able to take some biology classes at the top level, as well as some other chemistry classes you might be interested in. I think that students with this degree, like I said, typically go into the pre-professions, as well as they're able to be prepared for biotech jobs out in the industry. Next, please, Dinah. So the Bachelor of Science in Environmental Chemistry, this is kind of a chemistry degree with environmental science and policy sprinkled within the curriculum. So allows you to take classes in the Department of Environmental Science and Policy. You get to understand sort of the big picture of where environmental science is and what they are about, but we give you the strong chemistry background so that you're able to apply into that industrial field. We have faculty amongst us that actually have worked in the industry, specifically in the environmental chemistry industry, that'll be able to guide you. And we are shifting that program a little bit to give you much more emphasis in what is called environmental laboratory techniques. We've developed some investments here in the department that would allow you to sort of have access to tools that will be really useful when you get a degree in environmental chemistry. Forensic chemistry is very much like environmental chemistry, but the flavor now is forensic science. So our students in forensic chemistry will focus on chemistry and then take several courses in the forensic science program. Again, to give you a big picture understanding of what that is, I would say that our emphasis in forensic chemistry is really this idea of laboratory work, right? So you become an expert from a chemistry perspective, and you'll be able to apply with your knowledge in forensic science, some of that knowledge into the forensic field. And finally, the Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry is a degree that is sort of a little bit less in depth in terms of the number of classes that you take. And that particular flexibility allows you to explore different areas. You might actually be able to double major potentially in chemistry and mathematics or something else, get a minor potentially. And in addition to that, all of our students that end up or wanting to go into the K through 12 profession can actually go through getting a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry and then a minor in education, which kind of puts you in that track. And allows you to get the certification needed for you to teach in that area. Because you're taking physics and biology and chemistry throughout the degree as well, you're qualified to potentially get certifications in a lot of those fields, which makes you incredibly marketable when you go out there in the field. So that's sort of the rundown of our programs. And now I'm going to introduce you to some of the people that you'll encounter here in chemistry. So the first person here in the slide is Dr. Healy, that person right there in the corner. He is our most senior faculty member. He started this program a long time ago, I think 29 years ago now from Dr. Healy. So he's been really the pioneer of chemistry at St. Edward's. He's very much a research active faculty member. And like Dr. Quinn was saying, I'm going to introduce you to some of the fields, some of the questions that Dr. Healy and his lab of students are interested in asking. So he is by training an organic chemist, but he sort of pivoted and started thinking about biochemistry problems from a computational chemistry perspective. If you didn't know, there's such a thing as computational chemistry. You can actually apply your computing and coding skills into problems that are trying to solve chemical problems. So Dr. Healy is interested in the relationship associated with the structure of enzymes and disease. And he's trying to study those and all those motions that are happening in proteins and in enzymes and the associations that can happen between these proteins and how those associations might eventually lead to pathogenic states. One of his most important projects that he's working on is one on amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It's a project that he's developed in trying to understand how the aggregation of proteins, specifically this enzyme called superoxide dismutase, might lead to this disease. So the students in his lab get to learn quite a bit of skills. You're applying your mathematics skills, your biology skills, your computing skills, and then you put that into question to try to answer some really interesting chemistry questions. If you want to know more about his research, you can see right there the link to his website. There's quite a bit of information there of all the stuff and fun stuff that he's doing right now. And Dr. KovacsKeefe is our biochemistry and in-house biochemistry person. So she is our biochemistry expert. She's an incredibly passionate instructor. Her passion is twofolded. One of them is working specifically in her lab with understanding how volatile organic compounds can result from different inputs that you can give to stimulus. Basically, you can give to plants or to systems. And then what happens to the compounds or the chemicals that these plants or systems are emitting in response to that stimulus. So this could be, for example, in the case of droughts, in the case of overstressing the plant, trying to figure out what is happening biochemically at the plant level that is then eventually going to result in a particular response. And we can study that through understanding what is called volatile organic compounds. You might have heard of the term VOCs out there. She's also, as I said, a very passionate instructor in biochemistry. The vignette that you see right there is sort of a clip of her most recent chapter that she just published in terms of how to teach and how to understand biochemistry better. So you'll be in excellent hands working with Dr. KovacsKeefe. Next, please. Our newest addition to the department, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Dr. Rebecca Thompson. She comes to us from the University of Chicago, which is an elite program in physical chemistry. That is her area of expertise. So physical chemistry, if you didn't know, it's the area of chemistry that's sort of the boundary between physics and chemistry, very much a quantitative area of the field, very much foundational understanding of chemical problems. And her interest in her lab that she's about to start very soon in a couple of weeks here with 3 students, is interested in how materials are capable of, in this particular case, serve as detectors. For the picture that you see down there is sort of a material being able to sort of detect proteins, and that could be used, for example, to detect disease or to detect the presence of a particular pathogen. But her questions are really about how the material and the interactions that are happening molecularly, the chemistry happening at the molecule level, that affects how the material eventually develops its ability to do its function. So she's very much a fundamental chemistry, a fantastic and energetic instructor. So we're so excited to have her here and hopefully get a chance to meet her soon. Thank you. Next. The next person, of course, is me. The people over there in that corner are my research team, my wonderful, wonderful students. I have a fantastic research lab. I can't tell you enough how incredible these kids are. They're amazing. I'm so sad just looking at them because I miss them so much because we haven't been able to see each other for a while. But just tell you a little bit about our research. I'm a bio and organic chemist by training. So that means that I'm interested in questions that involve metals in biological systems. Specifically, we're interested in, as Dr. Quinn mentioned, these systems called metalloenzymes. So those are enzymes that embed a metal inside of them. And what our question is often is, how is the metal impacting the function of the enzyme and how the function then eventually leads into disease states? We're specifically working with an enzyme called nickel acid reductant dioxygenase, which is involving a variety of cancer types. And most recently, I'm really happy to announce this is very, very recent. Our lab was awarded a grant from the National Institutes of Health to ask some of these questions. And I'll tell you, 100% of the work, 100% of the questions that came for the writing of that grant came from the people that you see in that corner and the people that have preceded them in my lab. So that is the kind of hands-on experience we're talking about. You are driving the research, you are driving major grants, you're driving papers and function, and that's what we want you to get you involved in. So we're very excited to introduce you to that. Next, please. As Dr. Quinn in biology, we also have some non-research active faculty that are more focused into the teaching. Dr. Lauren Mitchell, she's also a new hire. She's an organic chemist, inorganic chemist by training. Professor Burnett, he's an analytical organic chemist also by training, and he is sort of our industry specialist. He has a lot of industrial experience, so he can kind of guide you if you're interested in that kind of a route. And then, of course, Dr. Curry, who is the person that keeps us very much safe and together. She's our laboratory manager, very much mirroring what biology is doing. And just like Dr. Quinn said, I want to reemphasize the point that just because they are teaching faculty, we also focus on what is called CURE type courses, and that is course embedded undergraduate research experiences. That means that from the moment that you get started at St. Edward's, it is our interest to get you excited and interested in research. Whether you do that in the laboratory with the different faculty members that you saw earlier, or in the classroom directly to the work that you do in your classroom. It's not going to be sort of this cookbook laboratory, but instead it's going to be trying to ask some meaningful questions. Our faculty are committed to giving you that experience from day one, just like in the biology program. Thank you. So just kind of giving you a sense of where our graduates go from the chemistry department. We have a distribution of people going between graduate school, professional schools, and in that I include dentistry, medical school, optometry, for example, and then industry, as well as a small percentage of our students going to the K-12 field, but also, like I said, a viable route for you if you wanted to go that direction. So the next list of students that I'm going to show you now is just kind of to give you a flavor of the places, first of all, the programs that our students are going to. And this is in the most recent years. I believe everyone in the list that I'm going to show you in this slide and the next are basically graduates from the past 5 years. So we're talking about people doing biochemistry, molecular biology, so a chemist graduating with a chemistry degree going into a biology PhD, radioactive synthetic chemistry, computational chemistry, organometallic chemistry. So whatever you might do here as an undergraduate, treat it as an exploration opportunity. The future and the doors that will open up for you when you go to graduate school are huge, huge, huge. And I don't know if this is obvious to everybody, but if you go to graduate school in the sciences, you actually will get paid to do that. So it's a really fantastic opportunity, especially in difficult times, that graduate school will be sort of a paid opportunity for you to get even more education. So that's an asset of being in the sciences. So just so you can see lots of different programs. This is an example of some of our graduates that are working in the industry as well as in the medical field. And we are very successful, just like biology and chemistry in general. In the sciences here at St. Ed's, we have a very successful trajectory of placing people into jobs as well as into pre-professional programs. So just to emphasize the point about this idea of getting you involved with opportunities outside of the classroom, remember that you're a scientist. A scientist is a hands-on profession. You are an experimental scientist if you want to become that. So we want to give you the hands-on that you need to become competitive when you get out of here. So let's talk about some of those. Dr. Quinn and I will describe some of that. So starting with the research piece, I mentioned to you that you can join any of the faculty members groups. That you can see there's 14 research active faculty. So 14 different projects you can choose from, or jump between one or the other, which would be fantastic. If you want to try arachnids one semester and then go into biochemistry the next, that's a fantastic idea. Ways that you can get involved are through independent study with faculty. So you can work with us on a one-on-one basis through independent study classes that you can take. We also have a very robust summer research program that we fund independently. So you can actually work more intensely during the summer here with us, either through a 6-week or an 8-week program. And then, like I mentioned before, through the cure-based type classes, so the course embedded undergraduate research experiences, you'll also get some more experience in research. So I would say with confidence that basically all of our graduates are going through some sort of research experience at some point in their career. You have the opportunity of taking the work that you're doing in our labs and then present it at regional and national meetings. And right there, you can see some of the potential examples of where you can go. This is where you're like elbow to elbow with expert PhDs and scientists presenting your work and being able to successfully describe your science. That's the kind of emphasis on communication Dr. Quinn was referencing, this idea that we want you to know how to talk about your science in venues that are actually relevant, where your colleagues will be watching you. And finally, of course, the ultimate reason why we do science is to communicate our science to the general public. And that means that you will have to be part of this idea of publishing and being a published author. So you have the opportunity with the work that you will do in our labs to become part of articles that you are writing with the faculty member, alongside the faculty member, and become a published author. So what an amazing opportunity and what a competitive advantage you will have when you graduate, regardless of the field that you go into, whether you go directly into medical school, for example, or graduate school. These kinds of experiences make a big difference. For an undergraduate to be able to be part of a research article, and the two examples that are there are showing you, it is night and day in terms of the experience and in terms of the opportunities you will have when you graduate. Thank you. As I said, this is a robust program supported by various different foundations and nationally recognized institutes. So like the National Science Foundation funds some of our programs, the National Institutes of Health, as I mentioned, the grant that we recently received, the United States Department of Agriculture, as well as the Welch Foundation, just to give you sort of an example of the fact that we have money to pay you so that you can do work with us in the laboratories. As well as the significant investment that has happened over the past 5 years in our laboratories. I would say that is over $500,000 worth of equipment that has been invested in the past 5 years. In the left-hand side, I don't know what side that is. The one that looks like an R2-D2, if you follow Star Wars, maybe that's a bad reference too. Anyway, the one that looks kind of like a little oval or something. Anyway, that high-field nuclear magnetic resonance, that is a fairly brand new instrument that we have, and allows you to sort of look at the molecular structure of compounds. It's basically like an MRI, but for chemistry. The gas chromatogram that you see in the middle is an instrument that we just purchased actually 3 months ago. It has an autosampler, like a robot arm that kind of injects samples. It's super cool. You've seen it if you watch any of those NSCI shows that they go to the mass spec, and they do stuff. And then a fluorescence microscopy that we can do now. Recently, the biology department received a National Science Foundation's funded grant to purchase this instrument, and it's a fantastic machine. Totally accessible to you. You can touch this, you can do the experiments, and like in other institutions, big institutions, let's say, where you would be sort of on the sidelines looking in, this is actually your machine, your experience, and you'll have that hands-on experience that you need to either get a job or to go into the next step. I'll let Dr. Quinn then tell you a little bit more about some other wonderful opportunities we have here at St. Ed's.
Well, as Dr. Toledo was saying, St. Edward's is distinguished by the fact that we have really good resources for undergraduates to get heavily involved in research. Whether you're going to go on to graduate school, go to a physician's assistant, nursing school, it doesn't matter if you're going to get a BS and get out and do something like Ramiro's done. Research makes you a better scientist. Anybody will tell you that. And we have, down at the bottom of the slide, you can see some of the resources we have. We have endowments that fund the kind of equipment we need. We have the faculty who are engaged in seeking external funds for it. One of the things that didn't make the list is we have a field research station called the Wild Basin Preserve. Our students are heavily involved out there. We have a state-of-the-art research greenhouse on the roof of one of our new buildings. It is as good as any research greenhouse in the city of Austin. And we also do work at private properties, for example, Spicewood Ranch. Just an enormous array of resources available to you, and it's supported financially. So we can get students research money to help them, reward them, and find meaningful careers. Again, no matter whether you're going to graduate school, whether you're not going to graduate school, whether you're going to a professional school, all of this supports your undergraduate education. Next slide, please. A couple of the things you should think about. One of the big opportunities at a school like St. Edward's, we don't have graduate programs in the natural sciences. And so we lean on our advanced undergraduate students to help teach with us. They act as a liaison and help clarify the points we on the teaching faculty are trying to make in a classroom. Those are paid positions. And I think you might have heard this before. You really don't know something until you teach it to other people. That's when you find out what you know and what you don't know. Those are opportunities that are available all across the sciences at St. Edward's. I'd strongly encourage you to consider that. We have a variety of other paid positions, work in a lab, manage the greenhouse to support the university. So next slide, please. We also are heavily invested in student organizations. I'll drop down to the Beta. The Tri Beta is a nationally recognized, it's the national honor society in biology. We have a chapter of that. The oldest student organization on campus is the student chapter of the Texas Academy of Science. The Texas Academy of Science was founded in the 19th century, and it's been going continuously. St. Edward's University, not only is that the oldest student organization on our campus, St. Edward's University was one of the 6 institutions, 4 of which no longer exist, who started a student chapter in the Texas Academy of Science. We have a variety. We have American Medical Student Associations. We have a variety of opportunities in which you can get involved. And there's our contact information. Real quickly, one editorial comment. Dinah didn't give us a shot of speed so that we get excited about this. I'd love to listen to Dr. Toledo. We are juiced on what we do. We are at St. Edward's because we are totally committed to it and we love it. And what gives us that is our students. We are totally student-centered and they feed us with their brilliance and their camaraderie. I'll stop now.
Thank you so much, Professors Quinn and Dr. Toledo, for that wonderful information. As you can tell, we have just a wealth of expertise and knowledge and opportunity in both of these areas at St. Edward's University. And I so appreciate both Dr. Quinn and Dr. Toledo for presenting today and sharing this information with you. Thank you so much to all of you who held on for this part of the presentation, and we have about 10 minutes for questions, and I do want to give time for you to ask questions directly to Dr. Toledo and Dr. Quinn. We have a question already, and Audrey's asking if the forensics programs are tied closely to biology. Dr. Quinn, do you want to take that?
I would be happy to. I teach a number of students from the forensic science department in our biology courses, from the freshman level up through a junior level biology courses. There are a few, I don't teach many in the senior level course, or I don't teach much in the senior level courses. But yes, the forensic students are well integrated into biology, and Dr. Toledo can talk about the integration of forensic chemistry with forensic science and biology.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I just wanted to quickly reemphasize that the idea is that this is a very fluid idea. So if you're interested in forensic science and you have an inclination to do some biology or an inclination to do some chemistry, you will have an opportunity to take those classes regardless because they're embedded within those degree programs. So that's a fantastic opportunity. So yeah.
Thank you. We have a question from Sabrina. Thank you so much, Sabrina. It's good to know that this webinar has been helpful. Thank you for that feedback. Sabrina would like to know if you could expand a little bit more on the Bachelor of Arts degree in biology education, Dr. Quinn, and does it work the same way as the BA in chemistry tied to education that Dr. Toledo explained?
Yes, they're very similar to each other. So eventually, if you're going to be a public school teacher, you're going to need to be certified. You're going to seek certification. And so you have a whole lot of educational courses, pedagogical courses that feed in, but the content courses endow you with the ability to teach a lot of different subjects in kindergarten all the way through high school. In high school, you might be familiar with anatomy and physiology. Well, that's a pretty typical one, but there are many, many other upper level science courses. A whole lot of our biology students who go into the teaching profession teach both biology and chemistry courses. They teach biology and physics courses. So the Bachelor of Arts in both programs, and I'll let Dr. Toledo weigh in on this, both of them allow students to customize their course to the extent their curriculum to the extent they can, so that they can integrate a lot of the content into a successful and long-term teaching career.
Yeah, I think that Dr. Quinn covered it pretty well. The idea for us is to get scientists in the classroom. That's a passion of ours. I think that you will be a much better teacher if you're a scientist first, and then you have the ability to be flexible, take classes in a variety of areas, and become certified in a lot of different areas that will make you more marketable.
Thank you for those answers. Other questions? This is an opportunity to ask directly to these faculty members things that you want to know about biology and chemistry at St. Edward's University. I know we have a number of students on the webinar today who have already decided to be Hilltoppers and are going to be joining us on the Hilltop in a few months for classes. We're excited about that. And I know we have some people on the webinar who are still trying to decide, and some who are just beginning their college search as juniors, soon to be seniors in high school. So please do let us know what questions you might have. And Dr. Quinn.
While the participants type in questions, I have one that anybody should answer. What are your classes like? How many people are in them? How do your faculty colleagues teach? What's the relationship within a classroom between the professor and the students? Dr. Toledo.
So our classrooms, of course, because of the type of institution that we are and our commitment to the personalized education and the one-on-one education we give, are absolutely fairly small in size. Our largest courses, which would be the initial first-year courses, are sitting somewhere between 25 students and 30 students, and that's not really a large classroom by definition. The classrooms are highly interactive in nature. We know exactly the things that you know and the things that you don't know, because we get to know you one-on-one. We have office hours, open door policy when it comes to being here. So you can walk into an expert's office and ask any questions that you have. That is absolutely a relational story. And that's what allows us to write the strongest letters of recommendations for our students, because we've seen you in the highs and we've seen you in the lows. And that relationship building that happens in the classroom and out of the classroom and in the interactions you have make a world of a difference for you. So yeah, I think it's very relational, very much connecting with the faculty.
Excellent. We have a question here about the medical laboratory science degree, that it's been noticed that it's very clinically oriented. Does the BS in biology degree offer similar opportunities for students who are seeking to be pre-medicine? Dr. Quinn. And you might need to unmute. Sorry, I know
if I was going to go, if I was interested in a professional program and I was in the Department of Biological Sciences, I would recommend you consider the Bachelor of Science Health Professions track, because it is geared, it is designed, it is written to comply with the entrance requirements and the success requirements of medical schools and dental schools. The MLS program is not so much. And so while it's a great program in and of its own right, it is not the major pathway into one of the professional schools in the biological sciences. Now it's your turn, Dinah. You need to turn your mic on.
My goodness, you think I would have gotten this down by now. Sorry about that. We have a question here from Sabrina, who's asking if it's possible to be a teaching assistant as an international student at St. Edward's.
I can't wait to jump on that. I know Santiago is dying to do it too. Yeah, that's what we do. Yes, 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 that's possible. It's extremely desirable. Yes.
And the Office of International Education will have people that know how to work with you with regards to and whatever paperwork is necessary. But yes, absolutely. This is an opportunity open to every student enrolled at St. Edward.
We have had great teaching assistants who are international students. It's just fantastic contribution.
And I would say the same goes for the research opportunities, except for some of the grant funded that are coming from certain pipelines, but there's a lot of other opportunities that you still will be eligible to apply even if you're an international student.
Excellent. So in our remaining 5 minutes, we have a few questions related to medical school and essentially kind of like, what is our acceptance rate for medical school? What's the best track to pursue if you are interested in eventually ending up in medical school? And I know, Dr. Toledo, you sit on the HPAC, the Health Professions Advisory Committee, and you work very closely with students who are applying to medical school as well as other graduate programs in health professions. So can you speak to a little bit about those questions?
Yeah, those are great questions. The one quick answer for all of that is that it doesn't matter, really. The beauty is that you will begin taking classes in biology, chemistry, physics, philosophy, and all of those, and you'll eventually find your passion and your excitement. A lot of the degree plans, like Dr. Quinn mentioned, as well as the degree plans in chemistry and behavioral neuroscience and other programs, are geared so that your initial prerequisites of chemistry, biology foundations, psychology foundations are kind of covered in your early first years. So you don't have to make a decision immediately. If you're going into pre-health in pre-medical school, it's fantastic that you're still kind of wondering which is going to be your passion, but there will be a home for you eventually so that you can sort of pick your track. Like Dinah was mentioning, I'm in the Health Profession Advisory Committee. So it's a group of faculty in biology, chemistry, philosophy, and behavioral neuroscience, as well as the health professional advisor, Mr. Jason De La Rosa. All of us sort of work together with students in the health professions to sort of guide you along the way from the first semester you hit the Hilltop all the way to the moment that you're applying for those medical schools. We are writing those letters for you and writing you letters of support. And like I said, because of the relation we've had with you for those entire 4 years of your education, we'll be able to say things that actually will highlight you as who you are as a person, as well as as a service person, as well as a student. What is our acceptance rate? Everybody that we put out for going into medical school has a very good chance of getting in. I can't tell you exactly what the percentage are. A couple of years ago, everybody that we recommended to go up was getting in. I think this year we had 90-something% acceptance. But what happens is that as you go through the years in the Health Professions Advisory Committee, you are sort of beginning to go through a process of things ramping up for you, right? Your service hours are there. Then your academic performance is there. And then the Health Professions Advisory Committee is kind of telling you, yes, you'll be ready to apply for medical school this year, or you'll be ready to apply for medical school maybe after a year. So it's sort of a catered procedure, but we're never letting you go because from day one, you're being advised by different people in what is going to be the best route for you to get there. So if you're wanting that and that's your dream and that's your goal, absolutely St. Edward's is a place for you to get there. We'll work with you to get to that particular goal.
Thank you for that, Dr. Toledo. And we have time for a last question from Ana Paula. She's asking for a little bit more information about the behavioral neuroscience major and if it's an appropriate major if you do want to go on to medical school. It sounds like you kind of answered it with the last response, Dr. Toledo, but I'll let you address that question directly.
Yeah, Dr. Jessica Boyette Davis, she's the chair of that particular program, the director of that particular program, is the faculty liaison, sort of the main person in HVAC regarding the main person in HVAC. So she's in behavioral neurosciences. And yes, that is absolutely a great route. Behavioral neuroscience major students will take all of the degree requirements for that particular major. And then there's already prerequisites within that major that allow you to take chemistry and biology. And then you have to sprinkle it with a few more classes that are prerequisites for med school. And then you're on your way to apply for that. We've had very successful students going from there. I can think about one person right now, a fantastic student that actually was such an incredible student. She worked in biology, worked in chemistry, worked in behavioral neuroscience. Her name is Nikki Sheffield. She's just a talented student, worked as an SI in chemistry, but was doing research in behavioral neuroscience and was doing amazing in her biology classes. So a great route, especially if that's your passion.
Excellent. I think we have to close, but I know we had some great questions today. I really appreciate all of the students' questions, and I know that there's just some wonderful information that Drs. Quinn and Dr. Toledo shared today, and you might have more questions as you kind of digest this information, students. So please do take note of Dr. Quinn and Dr. Toledo's email addresses, which are noted on the slide. I know that I know both of these professors very well. I know they are certainly excited and happy to engage with you in conversation, either through email or phone call, if you have additional questions as you go about your search and consideration of St. Edward's. Also, please do note the email address for the admission office. So if there are things that you have questions about as you go through the application process, if you are a rising senior, for instance, or if you have questions as an admitted student and that it'd be helpful to connect with us, please don't hesitate to reach out to us in the admission office. Even though we are operating remotely right now, we are in full operation at the university, and we're preparing to start classes in person in August. And we're all looking forward to seeing you, our current students and our future students on the Hilltop very soon. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to Dr. Quinn and to Dr. Toledo for the great information that they shared. And thank you, students, for your participation. We appreciate you. We wish you well. We wish you continued health and safety as you engage over these next few months. And we look forward to seeing you on the Hilltop soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.